Gang. What's up? It's Trollbot.EXE. Welcome to the 10th and final episode of the first season of the history of Kamen Rider, the Showa edition. Yay! So today is gonna be a shorter video than usual, since we're just talking about Kamen Rider SD, some miscellaneous stuff, and pre-production for Kuuga. Yeah, these history videos tend to have pretty anticlimactic finales. Such is life. Anyways, let's get on to the recap. Yee! Previously on the history of Kamen Rider, seeing the success of Power Rangers and VR Troopers, Saban Entertainment decided to strike gold for a third time by bringing Kamen Rider to the States as Masked Rider. Initially, they wanted him to be close to the Power Rangers franchise in order to boost popularity. But as Power Rangers declined in steam in 1995, Saban decided to make it a completely independent product. Not before making a crossover episode. Which rider did Saban choose? Kamen Rider Black RX. Mostly. Though Zio and J were mixed in with the RX footage. So the show ran for 40 episodes, but was a disappointment and was cancelled after one season. To make matters worse, Max Rider has carved for itself a really bad legacy, being the reason why Kamen Rider is named Kamen Rider. So let's focus our attention back to Japan for now. What were they doing in the meantime? Find out now. As stated back in episode 6, the ending of Black RX featured all 11 riders and was a stepping point to manga featuring the 11. However, this 11 rider craze would reach its peak with Kamen Rider SD, or Kamen Rider Super Deformed. How do we get here? Well, a lot of things. So throughout the 80s, the Kamen Rider Club project happened, with toys such as Super Deformed Kamen Rider Club and Bon Bon Rider. A notable end result was the video game Kamen Rider Club Clash in the Land of Shocker. There were also some computer games under the Compatahero brand, basically meaning crossing over with other tokusatsu and anime properties, most notably Ultraman. All this came to a head in 1991, when an entirely new project was announced, the end result being Kamen Rider SD. To be clear, SD is non-installment, as no riders debuted in SD. SD was primarily composed of video games and manga, the video games coming on the Super Nintendo. One of those manga was adapted into Kamen Rider SD, Strange Man Spider, the first ever Kamen Rider anime, though it was a one-episode OVA. I watched it and it's aight. What makes SD stand out from the rest of the franchise is in how comedic it is. Even in more lighthearted installments like RX, Kamen Rider tend to be quite serious. So SD was quite the unusual jump. So let me talk about the anime story briefly. It focuses on the 11 riders, most notably RX as the main character, fighting Grand Shocker, an organization of past villains, not limited to Golgos, Jark, Shadow Moon, and many others. Fun fact, RX is voiced by Joe Onodera, the son of Ishinomori himself. And funnily enough, the only person to reprise the role for SD was Tobei Tachibana's Akiji Kobayashi. Since that's all I can say about SD, besides that, the franchise has really been quiet after J and Masked Rider. But in 1996, there were talks of bringing Kamen Rider back to TV, which was brought up by Shigenori Takatera, and assistant producer on Kamen Rider Black. Another major contribution was a year later when Hiroshi Fujioka, aka Ichigo's actor, would play Segata Sanshiro, the mascot for the Sega Saturn. This would contribute to Sega Saturn's success in Japan, unlike over here in the US. So we initially aimed for this new show to be broadcast at 6 p.m. on Saturday during TBS's primetime slot, but TBS opted to air Ultraman Gaia instead. So this new show would be broadcast in the time slot of Robocon, and by extension, replacing the recently defunct Metal Hero series, which aired on that time slot since Jibbin. Also, Robocon aired on TV Asahi, meaning that Kamen Rider would come back to TV Asahi for the first time since Amazon. This new series went in a radical direction. Due to modern technology, it steered away from the cyborg aspect of the series, and it steered more towards being a police drama. Many designs were made for the show, like Kamen Rider XV and Kamen Rider Kawakami. However, and unfortunately I have to cut this off in the dark notes, although Ishinomori would create pre-production designs for the series, he would ultimately die on January 28, 1998. On that day, a special called Youth Kamen Rider would air, serving as an official announcement of his death, and also a special episode featuring the first two riders facing off against New Monster. Well, that was a dark note went upon. So what else I can do? Probably review the Gozyuger suits. As suits, they more resemble Kamen Riders rather than Sentai, so that's immediately a point off. Otherwise, they look just fine. I like the chest, but the helmets and shoulder pads could use a little redesign. And that's probably going to be it on Sentai suits for a while. And also, Gozyuger as a series is probably going to be looked upon in quite a negative light, given recent news of Sentai's rebranding and how much of a fail Gozyuger was. And given internet rumors, it's probably going to be known as the series that almost killed Sentai. So, this video ended up being less rehearsed than I thought it would be, as you can see with me trying to fill in time with reviewing Gozyuger suits. And I guess you were disappointed with this finale episode, but rest assured, in months, if not a year or two, I will be covering the Heisei era and Reiwa era at once, since they're such a wild shift from the Showa era. So, on another note, watch out next video for Black Churches, and possibly a re-upload of the history of Metal Heroes. This time, probably all in one video if I'm lucky. So, like, subscribe, and comment down below. In the meantime, later, fools.